Hello. Hi, everyone. This is the Global Empowerment Summit. We arrived to the end of the 6 weeks challenge that I took on my shoulders to empower everyone all around the world by being online and making more than 300 sessions and more than 220 hours of live broadcasting. And here I am. We just talked before in the backstage, and we figured that we started the summit together because Nishith was the first one starting the workshops, and now we are closing the summit together with this interview, and I believe this is a beautiful frame, and it was totally accidental. So hi Nishith, how are you today?
Hello, I'm very well, yeah. And I feel, almost such an amazing honor just to start the summit and then be here at the end and the celebration. It's been such a humongous and amazing job that you've done, Andrea. So I feel absolutely privileged to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing this moment with me, and thank you also for the viewers. If you are here, please keep it interactive. If you would like to ask something from Nishith or from me, or just want to tell us that you are here, just put it in the comments. We will be more than happy to hear about you. And don't forget, tonight from 9 p.m. Singapore time, which will be late afternoon in Europe and South Africa and morning in the US, we will have our ceremony, the closing party. The link is in the website in the embedded calendar. You just have to click on the session title and see you in the Zoom room with a lot of surprises, a lot of games, and a lot of speakers. So Nishith, maybe you could tell a little bit about yourself, because not everyone was there at the first workshop. So tell us a little bit about your background, and then we are going on to our final topic of the summit.
Yeah. So I'm an NLP master trainer, and I've been working with NLP for almost 16, 17 years now. And what I specifically do is I run experiential retreats. So I've spent a lot of time. This actually happened in the Himalayas, right? Because I started mountaineering about 10 years back, and every time I go mountaineering, I feel like I am. There's so many times where I felt like I wasn't going to reach the summit. I look up and I look at the peak and I go like, yeah, there's no way on this planet I'm going to be able to make it there. That's just too difficult and that's just too hard. And pretty much always I made it. And so I always had this experience that yes, it was challenging and yes, it was difficult, but I always ended up overcoming my own limitation. I thought that this is something I wouldn't be able to do, and then I end up doing it. And then I thought that, this is an interesting experience, and I took it to life, because in my head I went like, if I could climb that, I could do anything in life. And so then I thought like, what if I could recreate the same experience for others? And then I started thinking about developing experiential retreats where I get people to do the same experiences as I have. But I also go through the experience first. So then I started spending more and more time with the monks in the Himalayas to model them. And NLP is a lot about modeling. It's about understanding how people are excellent at something and finding those underlying patterns or underlying structures that you can have for yourself so that you can experience the same thing. And then I'm like, okay, this is something that I really want in life, because I wanted to have that stability, that foundation that I didn't experience, because initially like 10, 12 years back, I just started my company, and as a startup, everything was so chaotic, and I was young. I was 22 years old, 20 years old. So in my head, like, yeah, let's go do this, let's change the world, let's do this. And it all felt so so chaotic, and I was like, okay, I've got to do this. And I started modeling monks, and I got so much out of it. And then I started spending more time in Switzerland, where I started modeling the base jumpers, because they literally jump off the cliff. And it's not that they're not scared; they're scared. But even after being scared, they take that leap of faith and jump with the parachutes. Imagine having that in life, in your professional life, where you're scared of so many things, but still being able to take that leap of faith and jump, make that jump, and learn. So I thought if I could have that experience for myself, that would be great. And slowly I started turning that also into a retreat. So now there's a retreat in Switzerland, and similar experiences around the world. And that's a little bit of background. So now I travel the world, I model people, and then I start developing that into experiential retreats so that people can learn and grow personally and professionally.
That's a beautiful thing, and I believe that's also giving the people like an extra experience, which is not normally not happening, because when you are coming to a retreat, then you have this close circle and you are all motivating each other and you have accountability partners, and even if someone is doing it right, then the others will be doing it too, because it's kind of like we are pulling up each other. It's kind of like going with the hot balloon, right?
Yeah.
If you're very scared but you do it together, then maybe you will step into a hot balloon, but if you're alone there, you will not buy that ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a very different energy. It's a very supporting environment, and there are no distractions when you're at home. When we do, let's say, I run online programs as well, but there are distractions. Things come in a way. But when you're at a retreat, you're just fully focused on your goals and your vision and your outcome, and then everyone's there to help and support. I mean, in NLP, everything is coaching focused. Everyone coaches and trains and helps and support, and that's such a great space. I mean, I could live my life in that space, uh, and that's sort of what you've created with this, right? It's a space of support where you've got speakers from all around the world, and all this people joining from. I just saw your post today from so many different countries, and just helping and supporting, and that's just amazing. And to be in this space, I find it really a privilege, and to just to have fun. And yeah, I could live my life like this, to be in this space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I was saying, and I would like to do this full time because it's just giving so much. When you give to people and you're working on something that is empowering others, it's really like something that's motivating you. And well, if someone would just say, "All right, do this," I would do that all the time, bringing people together. So, Nishit, we have your topic here, which is what do monks in the Himalayas, base jumpers in Switzerland, and the indigenous tribes in Brazil have common? So, where do we start? Which part of the world you want to start with?
We can start with any. What are you most excited about?
I had just have been in Brazil, so let's start with Brazil.
Right. Uh, so what I mean the topic is specifically. So I've spent time modeling the monks and the base jumpers and some of the tribes, right? And there are so many things that I found in common, and we'll start with what I experienced with the tribes, because one of the most important thing what I experienced being in those tribes, and this was specifically, if you remember, there was a big forest fire that was happening in Brazil, and I was there at that time. So there was a lot of influence in them, and my biggest learning from experiences with them was to really how connected they feel with nature. And that's what I found common in terms of monks, as well as a lot of people in terms of base jumpers, less so. But a lot of this indigenous tribes, for them, they live in oneness with the nature, and they live in oneness with animals. And there's a lot of learning in that, because from my experience, and this is completely my point of view, that to me nature is and could be one of the best coaches available, because you can grow so much and you can learn so much from nature. And so one of the things that I experienced with the tribes in Brazil was that no matter what challenges that they face, they always find the solution in nature. And so they identify with nature. It's almost like, imagine that if I'm hiking in the Himalayas and I look at the mountains, and the way I would do that is I would ask myself that, hey, what about this mountain do I enjoy? What about that mountain do I really like? And I'd say probably it's humongous, but there's also the foundation is really strong. And also the thing that I really like about the mountains is that it keeps shifting over a period of time. And so one of the things that I learned with the tribes in Brazil is that they would go and ask that, how is that true for me? So if I identify that in the mountains, if the mountain has that strong foundation, then how do I have that strong foundation, or how could I create that strong foundation? And so it's almost like they live in such harmony with nature, and they find answers to those the challenges that they face, or the problems that they face in nature, in the patterns of the jungle, in the patterns of the forest, in the ecology. And that's something I found really, really fascinating there.
I think I love this topic because next year our topic will be sustainability. And I talked to some people, and it's just amazing to hear that, for example, in Malaysia, like the diversity of the forest and the animals and the trees, it's just so rich, like richer than anywhere else. You had the oldest rainforest in the world, actually. And it's just because of the disconnection, right? People started to neglect nature, and the connection went away, and then they started to cut the trees, and then they are not paying attention on that very important factor, that this is giving them the livelihood, the oxygen, and everything around them, right? And it's really interesting from this space that there the tribes in Brazil, they are still living in this community in harmony with nature, and they know every single leaf, they know what they are good for, they know how they can make a tea from which tree. They know which animal to go close, which animal not to
Yes.
go close. It's just such a beautiful topic.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I've also found is being in all these different places at all these different times, that people in these places are the happiest people on the planet, at least according from my experience. They don't have much. I mean, people in Himalayas, they struggle, like when there is a snowfall or power cut happens. And yeah, so when there's a snowfall or power cut, some of them have to hike down 10 kilometers just to charge their phone, because that's their livelihood. A lot of them depend on the travel and tourism. And imagine just hiking down 10 kilometers and then hiking up just so that you can charge your phone. That's difficult. And yet they don't complain at all about anything. And I find that such a fascinating perspective to be in.
Yeah, it brings us the appreciation back into the picture. Like we forget to appreciate the things, and we take everything for granted. And then when it's too late, we start to think, "Oh, it must have been something that I should have paid attention to." Blah blah
Yeah,
blah blah. But then it's already too late, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
that's an amazing thing to learn from them. So let's go further to the Himalayas. What did you learn there? What is the main learning that you took away?
I mean, that I already shared in my introduction. I think the biggest learning that I had was that uh, modeling out the idea that I'm always bigger than I thought I was. Because I found limited and I found challenging. And then at the end of the day, I experienced that uh, even though I thought I couldn't do something, I could do it. And so I was only limited in my thinking. And that gave me the experience that all my thoughts are just my thoughts. They're not real. They don't exist. They just exist in my mind. So every time I think I can't do something, it's just a thought and it's not real. And they just exist in my mind. And that was one of the biggest learning. But there was this another time also when I was spending time experiencing. Uh, I stumbled upon this French monk. Uh, he was a guy from France. He was a firefighter, and he had seen so much suffering, and he had seen so many horrible things because of the job that he had. That he decided to spend, I mean, leave all of that behind and spend time in the mountains. And it's such an amazing conversation that I had, and we were talking about, because Buddhism is a lot about acceptance of suffering, and there's different kinds of Buddhism and stuff. But I was specifically having conversation with this guy about that, and I learned uh, just an amazing conversation. Because like I said, that when I started all of this, I was young, so in my head, having the context of suffering itself was, yeah, I don't want to look at life from suffering perspective. No, that's just such a not a great way to look at it. But after having conversation with this monk, I realized there's no good, bad, right, wrong, and everything happens that just happens. And the more we accept that, it sort of created an underlying structure of acceptance, and which was really interesting because if I could figure out the step-by-step structure of acceptance, which is to say, not to see things in terms of good, bad, right, wrong, and experiencing life as it is, as close to reality as possible, uh, and bring that to so many people in the programs that are run, where acceptance is just generally the first step to anything. Because till you don't accept what's really going on, you can't really change anything, you can't really shift anything. And for me, these are the two most important things that I experience in the Himalayas.
I think the one thing that I would also add is amazing how much time they spend on exploring themselves. Like they are in silence and they are patient enough to hear themselves and their intuitions and everything. And that's also something that is missing today next to acceptance. Also
Yes.
to spend time with ourselves and not have always something on, and not always like being online or not always just being with someone, but being
Yeah.
alone, spending time alone, and then exploring the things that you want or how you
Yeah.
feel, or just checking in with yourself, like Arman and the empowerment group just said.
Yeah. I mean, one of the important things that I learned from them is that whatever you experience on the outside, you always look inside,
Yeah.
and so that's the fundamental principle with which they live life. And for me, I mean, that doesn't mean I don't care about PS4. I love PS4, and I love playing video games, and I love watching movies, and I love luxury. I love all of that. But it's also important to kind of have that same space that we give for the outside world to have for our own internal world, to give that space for our own internal self, have that luxury for our own self, have that fun time for our own self, and spend time with our own self, and that creates such a huge shift. Absolutely.
So before we go further, we have a lot of questions, but I also have a recommendation. I have a book that I read not so long ago. It's the Book of Joy from Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and it's kind of like a very nice chit chatty kind of format. There was one other person who was collecting this and made it happen to the two of them to meet, and it was just such a nice easy book, and it gives some easy advices also for people to start to think a little bit more and how to reach joy and how to live life with more joy. It was really nice. If you have time,
Yeah.
guys, then please read this book. And we started to have some questions, so let's just bring up before we go to Switzerland.
Yeah.
So Sharm is saying, after such experiences, how do you bring back these experiences down to society with people who can't travel to such places?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I do with my programs, because a big part of NLP is about understanding the underlying structure. So, because I completely understand that not everyone can travel and not everyone can do what I do, people have other responsibilities and time. But let's just take an example of acceptance. As I was modeling this monk on acceptance, I found the underlying structure. So, step one is to do this, which is to really, shift your mindset from not thinking about things from value judgments. Step two is to see things as they are. And then step three is to have a full sensory experience. And I'm giving you just an example version of this, but having a full sensory experience rather than an intellectual experience of what you do. And these steps kind of translates into someone having an acceptance. It's sort of like everything that we do internally has a step-by-step process. Every emotion that we feel has a step-by-step process. It's sort of like exploring how of everything. Like when people say that, I mean, a lot of times people say that you want to be confident in life, but no one really says how. How do you be? Yes, I know. I knew that before, but how do I do that? How do I be confident? and NLP helps you explore that. So what's the step-by-step process that you can adapt to be confident? Similarly, what's the step-by-step process that you can adopt to have more acceptance or overcome fear or overcome challenges? And so once I identify these steps by modeling these monks or the tribes or the base jumpers, then I put them and integrate that into my training programs. It could be an online program. And so basically just getting people to go through these steps, and as they do that, they also experience the same level of acceptance. And so that's how I sort of bring these experiences. And also there is a change in context. As much as a lot of these I learned for my own self, for my own personal growth, it could be applied like in business context, for example. Let's say overcoming fear, which is something what I explored with base jumpers, is such a it's a great thing to have for any startups in any business for any leader, because there's always so much unpredictability, specifically in today's world, and living with that unpredictability, but having this step-by-step process that allows you to overcome fear, that tells you exactly what you need to do, who you need to be, so that you can take that leap of faith. You can step into that nothingness, you can step into that unknown, and still have that faith that your parachute's going to open. That's how the whole that's how I start bringing it to the corporates and organizations and individuals in the programs that I run.
It's really interesting because I was visiting, I believe it was Spain. And in Spain, I was at a place where they were in a higher place and they were jumping off, and it was a tandem jump. So they had someone who was a trainer, and then in front, there was the girl, the lady who was jumping for the first time. The whole family was around, like looking at them and then, explaining what will happen. There was a super huge wind, so whenever they started to jump or land, then the wind was blowing them. There was one guy just, checking the parachute and pulling it. But you could always see the fear in the lady's movements, how she was like, with the feet pushing down. So kind of like I was thinking maybe it's not just the wind when they are not growing together, but also like the lady's fate that she was so afraid. But then finally, when they jumped, the total experience changed, and you then
Yes.
see the person relax and look around, and then they were just floating in the air. So tell us from an NLP perspective, how did you analyze this, or how is it different with base jumpers, or what are the things that you learned from there?
So for me, a lot of the learning happened just before they take the jump. So I would literally just follow them to the like the in Switzerland you like hike up to the cliff and then they take the jump off. It's really funny because I would hike up to the cliff with them so that I can observe them, I can see them, and then I could interview them just before they're taking the jump. And so I would interview them in terms of understanding where are they at now, what's going on in their mind, what's their mindset, what are they experiencing. And a lot of times they say that there is fear, there is adrenaline, all of that. And what was really important for me to know is that what did they do about it? How did they, even though having that fear, how did they still manage to make the jump? And I would interview them. But here's the funniest thing, right? Because after that they make the jump, and then I'm left alone at the top of the cliff because I'm not trained to make that jump. So I have to like, okay, now I have to hike back. Like they are there in like they're down in like probably 5 to 10 minutes, and I take like 2 hours to get back, get back down down the cliff. Um, but so there are a couple of things that I learned. One of the most important thing that I learned is I think there's also a book about it. I don't exactly remember, but it's a similar strategy where a lot of these guys they don't think about things. So the moment they're at the cliff, before their thoughts kind of start to take over them, they take that jump, so that the thoughts then have no power over them because they don't listen to the thoughts. So it's what I think there was a book of 5 second rule or something like that. I don't exactly remember the name of the book or what was that, but basically the book suggested that when you want to make a decision or when you want to take action, take it within the 5 seconds, because after 5 seconds your thoughts will start creeping in, and then it goes. But that was one of the most interesting strategy that I learned, that when I want to take action, just get up and do it.
Mhm.
That was one thing. A second thing was that there was a lot of trust in their own self and in their own knowing that the parachute will open, which to me is a metaphor in life. Because a lot of things then I started doing, like I started taking more risk with the faith that, okay, I have that self belief and I know taking that leap of faith that the parachute will open. The funniest thing was that if even if the parachute didn't open, those guys always have a backup parachute that just automatically opens based on the pressure change. So it's almost like even if your parachute doesn't open, the other parachute always will take care of you. So to me, that became like a metaphor in life. Oops, sorry about that. So to me, that became sort of like a metaphor in life that if I just take leap of faith, I will be taken care of. As long as I trust myself, as long as I've prepared, it's not like that I haven't trained and I'll make that jump. As long as I've done my preparation, as long as I've done everything that I could to prepare for that jump, then I just need to take a leap of faith and let the world and the universe take care of me. That was sort of metaphor for me.
Beautiful. Ah, yes. Charm is saying the 5 second rule from Mel Robbins.
Mel
Yes.
Robbins.
Yes. I was actually trying it and it's very useful. If you are not starting to overthink it, but you really do the 5 second and then you are hopping up. I even use sometimes like 3 seconds because otherwise it's not working for me.
Um, your thoughts creeping fast.
Yes, too fast. So
Yeah,
one, two, three,
too
and then
fast.
I have to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Geeta here, we have Jack here, we had Sharm here, we have also Krishan, we have Simpong. Hi guys, please continue to put the comments and please ask questions. So we have a second question. It's just a personal question from Jagatis. So have you been to Sri Lanka where the monks live in the caves? That's
Unfortunately, not. I still haven't found a place to go there.
okay. Let me see the internet. Can you hear Nishit, guys?
I can hear
Is
you.
it just me? Okay,
I can
okay.
hear
I
you.
couldn't hear you for a second. So you haven't been, right? That was the
No, I
answer.
haven't. I haven't been to Sri Lanka yet.
I also want to go there. And then Sharm is saying, how has your life changed since you embraced NLP?
No? Oh. That's very interesting question. And so I think for a lot of people, they get into NLP similar in a similar fashion when something really bad happens in life, or there's something not so well, and then you need to overcome challenging times in your life. So you look for like, okay, what can I do to overcome this? And for me, that was also my introduction to NLP, because I was really going through a lot of challenges. I could share this in a quick uh, in a quick way. So I always wanted to become an astronaut, and I got through. I got through NASA. I mean, I got an internship in NASA, and then I got through some of the great organizations in India. I mean, engineering institutes in India, where I could go and pursue being an astronaut. But yeah, some life challenges happened, and I couldn't do that. So that was really devastating for me, because it's something. I mean, most kids wants to become. I mean, a lot of kids want to become astronaut, but they don't really work towards it. And I sacrificed a lot to really get there. And then I couldn't have that. I mean, when most kids were playing games, I was studying, and when yeah, there was just a lot of sacrifices. And at that point in time, I felt as I would have given at least 7 8 years of my life to focus on this dream of becoming an astronaut, and that didn't happen. uh, so I felt lost, and I felt like I didn't have a vision in life. I felt like I didn't really want to do anything. And like everyone, someone just came and said, hey, you know what, you should do NLP, and it will help you, and it will help you change this thing. So I'm like, yeah, okay, what's the harm, right? It's just going to a program, because I practically lost interest in pretty much most things in life. And then I went and did NLP, and it was, to be really honest, the first NLP experience that I had was really confusing. It was like I had no idea what was going on, but I felt good at the end of it. I felt better, and I felt like, okay. So I haven't fully understood this, but at the end of it, I still feel really good about this. So I want to know more about this. So then I went it and did more programs with NLP, and then I started understanding more, and I had such a great shift. It's almost like one of the biggest learning in my life was that you don't only have one vision in life. Because after the astronaut thing was gone in my head, like, okay, what's there to live, what's there? But I realized that I could create new vision, and then I started thinking, this is kind of like dumb. How did I not think about this before? We can create as many visions we want in life, as long as I'm excited and passionate about it. I can do that, and that was such a profound experience for me, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, for me, becoming an astronaut was about getting a different perspective of the planet, because just looking at the planet from that place just was a different experience, something that I'd like to see that many people on the planet hadn't seen. And so I created this, okay, what's the next best thing? So I'm going to go climb Everest, and that became like my new vision, that I'm going to go climb Mount Everest, and that's something that I'm working towards. But because NLP helped me so much with this, I started living more of NLP, and I started embracing more of NLP. In fact, I stopped my engineering in my fourth year just so that I can focus on NLP, and then continue with. And since then, it's been NLP and mountaineering, and it's been a whole different direction. It has helped me tremendously to live this life, and I feel really grateful to be able to travel and to be able to meet all these people like monks and the tribes and base jumpers, and it's just incredibly lucky and humble, and I feel gratitude, and all of this I'd give credit to NLP, because otherwise I would have been lost by now.
So that's a
Maybe.
beautiful journey for you to find something that you really like and passionate about. We have a few comments again. Simfong is saying, I wanted to be an astronaut too, but I had very bad eyesight, so he couldn't make it. And Jag and Christian are talking about the place that they visited. And also, I think the place was named, so it's in Dambulla, I think.
Tambola.
Yes, yes. And then we have also Sharm saying NLP and mountaineering. I cannot
Mountaineering.
even pronounce mountaineering. Nice sharing, Nishit. Thank you. So, if we are thinking about NLP and you are all about that, like, how can you relate it to life? Like, some people maybe don't understand neurolinguistic programming, this and that, but how can it help for a person to be more aware or to live a better life or to change their mindset? What are the practical parts of NLP that we never hear?
Yeah. I mean, so uh, a lot of NLP is just really understanding human experience. So, as humans, how do we experience things? How do we get our results? Uh, Most of the things that we experience in life comes from a lot of unconscious patterns that we have. It could have been developed in the early age. It could have been developed because of the media, advertisement, life experiences, your job, whatever that is. But we develop a lot of unconscious patterns, and that eventually translates into who we are as a human being and the result that we get in life. And a lot of NLP is about really unpacking those experiences. It's not, to be honest, it's not even something new. NLP is just really recognizing uh, what you already have as your deeper patterns, and some of these patterns might come in a way. I mean, just to give a very practical example of this, let's say you want a chocolate, right? As a child, as a kid, you wanted a chocolate, and what do you do when you want a chocolate? Like you go to your parent and you ask for a chocolate. Of course, your parents know you well. You keep eating chocolate all the time, so your parents are going to say no. And so then you slowly start throwing a little bit of tantrum. Oh, I want that chocolate. I want that chocolate. I want that chocolate. The parents know, they know you really well, so they're going to still, yeah, these are just tantrums. No. And so then you shift to the next strategy and go like, okay, now get really upset, lock yourself in the room, and then you haven't got that chocolate. So, but parents still, they know you really well, so they're not going to give you that chocolate. After that, you start crying like, oh, I want that chocolate, and the tears start dropping, and you start making the puppy face and all of that. And then by that time, your parents are really fed up, and so the parents go like, okay, you know what, here, take the chocolate. Now, as a young thing, that's a very simple thing. But here's what happens in the mind, right? In your mind, to you, to us, I mean, all of us, it might start seeming like that every time I want something that I don't get, all I need to do is cry. Because when I cry, I get that chocolate. When I cry, I got that chocolate. So your mind generalizes that if I want something, I need to cry and I'll get it. Now, which is all well and good when you're young and you're cute. But then fast forward 20, 30 years down the line when you've grown up and you're an adult. But this unconscious pattern kind of still says, this unconscious belief still says. So you want something, you ask for it, you don't get, you cry. But now you're not that cute anymore. So people are still not going to give you that. And then all these different things, then that starts getting into frustration and sadness and upset and all of that. But it's just that one small pattern, one small association that you created uh, when you were young that, hey, when I cry, I got the chocolate. So anything I want in life, I need to cry. Just carrying that pattern has such a wide scale impact on your life. So NLP is about recognizing a lot of these unconscious patterns that you hold that is currently giving you these results in life. Some of these patterns really help you to propel. Some of these patterns sort of limit you. And then once you start recognizing them, then you can start changing them. And then it will have impact in life. Then you can become better communicator. You can become better version of your style. You can manage your states in a much better way. You can manage your emotions in a much better way, and you can create uh, you can build rapport with people easily, connect with, and then the applications are there's just so many. But like I said, the big part of NLP is just recognizing that how you do things unconsciously, how you can recognize these things. And then there are lots of tools and techniques in NLP that has been developed out of modeling that you can use to change these things pretty fast and effectively. So that's
That's
sort
a
of a
very nice sharing. Miss Jacinta is also saying that's an amazing share. And we have also other questions. But before we get there, I just want to say one more time to the audience out there that we are having a closing ceremony very soon in a Zoom room. And how you can get the link to the Zoom room, please go to the globalempowermenthub.com and see the embedded calendar and just click on that closing ceremony title. And then it will pop up for you the Zoom link so you can just join us in that room and celebrate with us and the speakers who can make it. Let's have some fun, have some games, have some networking, and let's prepare for the next year. So after this, Charm is already having a new question. Do most of these patterns coming from childhood?
Not necessarily. A lot of them maybe, because those are the developmental years. Those are the times your mind is still creating all these shapes and patterns and stuff, and you tend to unconsciously model these patterns from your parents and teachers and people around you. So definitely, childhood has a lot of impact, but it's not the only place. You get these patterns from, like I said, society. You get these patterns from media and marketing. You get these patterns from pop culture, where you see all these movies and you kind of create this different notions and shapes in life. You get this pattern from your surroundings, from the jobs that you have, from the people that you interact with. So a lot of this different places where you kind of build these patterns from. But yeah, childhood's pretty significant.
Okay, so we are exploring NLP further and further. We have like around 5 more minutes or to summarize everything. So how would you summarize everything, and what would be the 3 things that you would say for the young and the wise to be more aware of today?
I'd say, I mean, the biggest thing that I would say, if there was just one thing that you can take away from this, uh, is, I mean, I'll take it in a funny way because people remember funny. Is not to take your thoughts seriously, because the common thing that I learned from all of these places, may it be base jumpers, may it be tribes, may it be the monks, the common thing that I learned was that uh, all your thoughts are not real; they are just real in your head. And the more you sort of, it's like the wolf story. I'm sure a lot of you might have heard this story. But there's this whole conversation that there's this wolf story, right? That there's a wolf of light and the wolf of darkness, and they're fighting with each other. Uh, which wolf will win? Does anyone do you know the answer to that question? I'm sure you know, Andrea. Yeah, but it's the wolves that you
Yes.
feed the most, right? It's the and the thoughts are like that. So there are good thoughts and there are bad thoughts, and it's the thoughts that you feed the most sort of tends to win, and uh, and that's one of the biggest thing because everywhere when I couldn't climb that peak, it was because the thought that I had that I couldn't, but I actually did. So my thought didn't matter. Uh, May it be connecting with nature, a lot of it is related to how you identify with nature, and a lot of that comes from your own thoughts. So as long as I mean, just know that your thoughts are just your thoughts; they're not real. And for me, that's one of the biggest common things that I learned in all of this, and that's I mean, I would say that if you can take one thing away from this, just know that all the things that you're thinking are just your internal stories; they're not true, and uh, and then just start becoming aware of them, and then see what happens, and take it from there. That's how I would summarize it for now.
Beautiful takeaway. Thank you very much. So I will just again acknowledge everyone in the comments. So thank you, Sharm. Thank you, Krishan Simfong. Thank you, Miss Yasinter. Thank you for Jack, Anjali, and Geeta for listening to us. If you have any questions, you have still a little bit of time to share it with us, and then we will answer. And in the meantime, we were also talking about generational differences. Is there any difference how you can approach younger people with NLP and wiser people with NLP, or everyone is the same? It's just kind of like the same for humankind.
I have an answer to it, but I kind of feel like it's not a great answer. But I'll still give my opinion and my answer to this. That I've learned NLP quite young, when I was 17. So for me, it made a huge impact because a lot of patterns weren't already formed, a lot of notions of life weren't already made. And I always find that the sooner that you learn NLP, the easier it is to adapt it, the easier it is to create that change. This is not true for everyone. I've found so many people who are also old. They have such wisdom that they can integrate and implement NLP easily. Uh, but I've also found that quite often to let go of your own experiences of life, to let go of your own notion of life sometimes becomes challenging because you've learned so much and you've created so much, and so sometimes that becomes like a challenge when you're learning NLP a little bit late. But as long as you're aware of that, and as long as you sort of like do the unlearning a little bit, and bring that wisdom and insight to bring that change, then I think it's the same. It's the same for a young or the old and wise. Uh, I think what's really important to me is that having an outcome, having a vision, because NLP is a tool. It's not the thing. It's something that helps you move towards something. And a lot of time, if you have a really strong and powerful vision, then NLP could be one of the most important thing to help you get their vision. But a lot of time, people learn NLP just for the sake of learning because they're curious and they're excited about it. But then it's like, you have this hammer and you have this tool, and but you have nowhere to use it. You don't know what to do with it. So that's sort of the way it becomes with NLP.
Thank you very much. So I hope we raised a little bit of interest for NLP for everyone who is listening to us, and also about life. How to approach life and how to see it differently. How to sit back a little bit and think about how you see life, how others see life. Model some people who are successful. Model some people who are already taking the leap and use it in your own life, just with your common sense, right? And if you need some help, then reach out to experts like Nishith, who are in their mastery of NLP and who can help you to make it a bit faster, a bit more efficient. So Geeta is having here a very beautiful message. You have some very interesting ways of looking at things, Nishith, very, very refreshing. It makes me reflect and think a lot more, which I love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Geeta.
So here you go, a beautiful, beautiful comment from Geeta. And now I would like to say goodbye to you. But before I say goodbye, share with us where can people reach you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, the easiest thing people can reach me is at LinkedIn, or you can visit the website that we have. The organization that I run is Thought Labs, so you can go to Thought, that is Thinking Thought Labs.co, or LinkedIn is the easiest place. If you just search for Nishith Shah NLP, you will find me, and then
And you're
uh,
also organizing some summits, right? The NLP summits or something, I
yes.
remember. Mhm.
Yeah. So we do a yearly NLP summit where we get some of the most amazing top trainers. These are the people who created NLP in the 60s to come and be part of this summit. And it's also a place, sort of like the space that you've created here, and where people from different parts of the world can get together and explore all these different ways of looking at life on one single platform. So that's also a great place to kind of experience NLP. Uh, the summit, the next one is going to happen in January. You can just go to globalnlpsummit.com and you can find all the information there if that's something of your interest.
I'm happy to feature, so I will share the information on the hub and then people can just join in from there. I'm really happy to feature the event. I know that you're working from passion, so why not share it with the world? And Dr. Anjali is
Thank you.
also very inspired by you. So she's getting back to NLP again just because
Ah,
you talked about it today. So thank you very much,
great.
Nishit.
Sure.
I wish you a beautiful evening, but also see you very, very soon at the celebration and the closing
Yes.
ceremony. It will be short and sweet, guys. So I am encouraging everyone to join in. Just go to globalempowermenthub.com, go to the embedded calendar on the schedule page, and click on the title, and you will find the Zoom link. If you're already a member, then you also have the emails. So there's no excuses. We just need you to be there and show up for yourself and enjoy the beautiful night and together with all these change makers. Thank you very much, Nishit. See you very, very
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank you,
everyone
Andrea.
joining in. Thank you guys for
Yeah.
watching.